Hello, everyone. My name is Emily, and I am 28 years old, and I've spent what feels like my entire adult life trying to hold together a version of family that was never really mine to begin with. My mom remarried when I was 15, and that was the day Tyler entered my life, my new stepbrother. He was 17 then, already the kind of guy everyone called a natural leader. Even back then, I could tell how things were going to go. My mom was smitten with her new husband, and her new husband was obsessed with his son. Tyler could have set the house on fire, and they would have blamed the match for being too dry. From the start, the family dynamic was tilted so far in one direction that I sometimes wondered if anyone noticed. Tyler was the golden boy, the prodigy, the one everyone praised even when he barely did the bare minimum. Meanwhile, I was the dependable one, which in our family was code for the one who cleans up everyone else's mess. My mom used to tell people proudly, "Emily is so responsible." But that word became a leash around my neck. When Tyler wanted to go out, I was the built-in babysitter. When bills piled up, I was the one mom called, whispering that she just needed a little help until things stabilized. When holidays came around, I was the one in the kitchen, cooking for 10 people, while Tyler's wife, Madison, posted selfies about how family means everything. When I graduated college, I thought maybe I'd finally get a moment of acknowledgement, a small celebration, a "we're proud of you." Instead, mom said, "Oh, we can't really afford to do anything big right now." And then a few weeks later, they hosted a backyard barbecue when Tyler bought a used Mercedes that his dad basically paid for. Everyone was laughing, drinking, and calling him Mr. Success. I was the one who took pictures for Facebook. That moment burned into my mind, standing there, holding my phone, capturing Tyler's smile while no one even remembered that I had graduated at all. I kept telling myself that families were complicated, that being the good one meant being patient, forgiving, understanding. So I kept showing up. Birthdays, holidays, family emergencies. I was always there, even when they weren't. I was the one they called when Tyler and Madison needed a babysitter at the last minute, when my mom wanted help organizing her finances, when her husband needed a ride after surgery. I was reliable, which sounds like a compliment until you realize it's a role that doesn't come with appreciation. This year, after years of scraping and saving, I finally had a little bit of money tucked away. I had been working insane hours, taking on side gigs, and cutting out every unnecessary expense. I was exhausted. I wanted to do something good, something that felt like family, but on my own terms. I suggested we take a family vacation, somewhere sunny and relaxing where everyone could actually unwind together. I found a gorgeous beach house in Destin, Florida. It wasn't cheap, but it was perfect. An ocean view, a big deck, close to restaurants and shops, and plenty of space for everyone. When I mentioned it in the family group chat, my mom immediately loved the idea. She said it would be so healing for everyone to spend quality time together again. Her husband said it would be great for the kids. And Tyler responded with a thumbs up emoji and a comment about how he'd have to check with Madison's schedule. Classic. We talked about expenses, and my mom said everyone would contribute fairly. I was fine with that, but I should have known what that really meant. When the deposit was due, everyone suddenly became vague. Tyler said he was waiting for a work bonus. Madison said their car needed maintenance. Mom said she would pay me back once she sorted out her credit card balance. Long story short, I ended up putting $200 on my own card and more than half the total. They all promised they'd Venmo me later. Of course, later never came. I told myself it was okay. I had been looking forward to the ocean, the warm sand, the sound of waves at night. I pictured waking up early to drink coffee on the porch, maybe even reading a book in peace for once. I wanted it to be worth it. Worth all the stress, worth the years of imbalance. I thought that maybe, just this once, things would feel normal. Then, about a week before the trip, I got a text from Madison. It said, "Hey, just checking. Can you babysit the kids a few nights while we go out for dinner? You'll be with us anyway." I just stared at the screen for a while. I could feel my stomach sink. It wasn't even a question, really. It was phrased like an expectation. Like, of course, I'd be the built-in help. I replied, "We'll see." A few hours later, Tyler called me. He started off casually, asking if I'd packed yet, but it quickly turned into something else. He said, Look, Em, if you want to come on the trip, you'll have to help with the kids. You know Madison needs her rest. I actually laughed because I thought he was joking, but he kept going. You're not paying full price anyway, right? I nearly dropped my phone. I reminded him, calmly, that I had already paid more than both of them combined. There was a pause, and then he said, "Yeah, but you don't have kids, so it's easier for you." That line hit me like a slap. The way he said it, so casual, so entitled, like my lack of children automatically made me the family servant. I could feel something inside me shift. Years of small slights, of being overlooked, of swallowing resentment because I wanted peace. It all started to boil over. My voice stayed even, but my mind was racing. That was the moment I decided, no, vowed, that this vacation was going to be unforgettable for all the right and wrong reasons. We got to Florida after a long, chaotic day of travel, the kind of travel that starts with optimism and ends with someone crying before takeoff. In this case, Madison's youngest, Jack, because he wanted to sit by the window, even though his sister Lily had claimed it first. By the time we arrived at the beach house, I was sweaty, exhausted, and already regretting my decision to organize this trip. But the house was gorgeous. 2 floors, wide open windows that looked out over the water, and the kind of salty breeze that made you feel like things might actually turn out okay. That illusion lasted exactly 40 minutes. We hadn't even unpacked when Madison came over, all smiles and perfume. Balancing her phone in one hand and holding Jack's sticky little fingers in the other, she said, "You're the best, Em. We'll be back after dinner." Then before I could even process what she meant, she handed me both kids like I was some kind of babysitting service. I blinked, still holding my suitcase, and watched her and Tyler walk out the door, laughing about reservations and finally getting a break. I thought it was just for one night. I figured they were tired from traveling, wanted a little adult time, and that it wouldn't happen again. I told myself to just go along with it, that it was easier than starting a fight on the first day of vacation. I let the kids watch a movie, ordered a pizza, and tried to convince myself it wasn't a big deal. But then it happened again the next night, and the night after that. Every single evening, there was a new excuse. One night, it was a romantic dinner they had booked months ago. The next, it was a couples massage they didn't want to cancel. Then it was drinks with friends we haven't seen in forever. They acted like I was doing them a favor, like it was all so natural that I would stay behind and watch their children while they enjoyed themselves. Meanwhile, I was the one chasing 2 sugar-fueled kids around the villa while everyone else was sipping cocktails under string lights by the ocean. Lily smeared ice cream on the couch cushions, Jack poured apple juice all over the kitchen floor, and I was trying to clean up while the sounds of laughter and music drifted through the open windows from the nearby beach bars. My mom walked in one night while I was wrangling both kids into bed and said, "You're so good with kids, sweetie." I said, "Yeah, because I don't have the luxury of dumping them on someone else." She didn't even flinch. She just smiled and told me not to be dramatic. By the 4th day, it was clear that this wasn't just them taking advantage of me occasionally. This was the plan all along. I was the built-in nanny, the responsible one who would just handle it. Madison started getting too comfortable. She would hand me sunscreen and say, "Make sure you reapply it on them. After an hour, they burn fast." Or text me, "Can you give Jack his nap? He gets cranky." I wasn't even asked. I was just told. What made it worse was how casual they were about it in front of other people. On day 4, we all went to dinner as a family, or at least that was the plan. Tyler and Madison invited one of their Florida friends, a woman named Tessa, who was all fake laughter and oversized sunglasses. The kids were restless, and I was trying to keep them occupied with crayons while Tyler and Madison chatted with their friend about how amazing it is to travel with family. Then Madison said something that made my blood boil. She laughed and told her friend, "Oh, Emily's practically family help. She doesn't mind." I could feel everyone's eyes flicker toward me, waiting to see how I'd react. I smiled, but it wasn't a nice one. I said, "Yeah, I'm the one paying for this villa, so I guess I'm your full-service resort too." The table went silent. Tyler's jaw tightened. My mom looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Madison tried to giggle it off, but her face turned a shade redder than her wine. I picked up my margarita, took a slow sip, and stared at the ocean beyond the patio as if the entire situation amused me. After that dinner, things got tense. Tyler barely spoke to me. Madison acted overly sweet in that passive-aggressive way people do when they're trying to make you look like the difficult one. My mom said I had hurt their feelings and that I should try to keep the peace. The peace, apparently, was me quietly being used. The next morning, I woke up before everyone else and went down to the beach. The sky was pink and soft and the waves were calm, but inside, I was anything but. I sat there for a long time, thinking about how this trip had turned into yet another example of how my family saw me: useful, dependable, invisible. I realized that I had paid for most of the trip, organized everything, and was now stuck taking care of the very people who were supposed to be relaxing with me. I had reached my limit. The breaking point came that afternoon. Tyler and Madison decided to grab lunch, which at this point was code for ditch the kids for 4 hours. They left as usual without a word about payment, thanks, or even acknowledgement. The kids were cranky, tired, and sunburned. When my mom saw me trying to soothe Jack while Lily cried about sand in her eyes, she had the nerve to say, "You just have such a natural touch with children. You'll make a great mom someday." I wanted to scream that evening while everyone was getting ready to go out again, hair curled, shirts pressed, the scent of expensive perfume filling the air. I sat in my room and watched them through the reflection of the mirror. Tyler adjusting his collar, Madison pouting at her phone camera, my mom reminding them to have fun. I felt something cold and calm settle over me, like the eye of a storm. They had spent years treating me like I didn't matter unless they needed something, and now, on a trip I had paid for, they were doing it again. That night, while everyone was out, I came up with my plan. Once everyone was gone that night, I sat in the dim light of the living room, the only sound coming from the waves hitting the shore outside. My phone was open to the rental confirmation email, the one I'd glanced at a dozen times before but never really studied. As I scrolled through the fine print, one detail jumped out at me. My name was listed as the primary renter. That meant the entire booking, from the deposit to the damage policy to the amenities access, was under my control. Every password, every lock code, every rental service, all mine. It was like finding a secret weapon I didn't realize I had. I could feel a smile tug at the corners of my mouth as a slow sense of satisfaction settled in. For years, they had treated me like the background character in their lives. This trip had been the breaking point, but it was also the first time I realized I held all the power. I wasn't just the dependable one anymore. I was the one who paid for this house, and therefore the one in charge. The beach house was beautiful, but its layout reflected the hierarchy they had imposed on me. There was one stunning master suite, king-sized bed, ocean-facing balcony, walk-in closet, and its own bathroom with a jacuzzi tub. Then there were 2 smaller rooms, one with a bunk bed and another with a queen bed tucked against the wall. Of course, when we arrived, Tyler and Madison immediately claimed the master suite without even asking, while I quietly unpacked in one of the smaller rooms. At the time, I hadn't cared much. I just wanted peace, but now, staring at that rental agreement, I realized peace was overrated. I made a few adjustments. First, I went into the rental app and changed the Wi-Fi password. It was easy. The router was right by the TV, and the admin code was printed on the bottom. I replaced the generic Seashell 123 with something I knew they'd never guess. Pay me back. Then I checked the keyless entry system. The master suite had a smart lock installed, which could be controlled from my phone. While everyone was out enjoying their cocktails and pretending to be stress-free parents, I locked the door remotely and moved my things inside. It felt poetic. My suitcases sitting where their designer luggage had been, my clothes hanging in the closet where Madison's resort dresses had swayed. I took a long shower in the master bathroom, wrapped myself in the plush white robe hanging on the back of the door, and looked out over the balcony at the moonlit water. For the first time that week, I actually felt like I was on vacation. When they came back that night, I was already in bed, scrolling through my phone. I heard the sound of the door handle turning, then the muffled frustration when it didn't open. Madison's voice carried through the door, shrill and demanding. Tyler's was quieter, tense. I let them knock, let them shout. And when Madison yelled my name, I finally said, "House rules, the person who pays the most gets the biggest room." The silence that followed was golden. The next morning was awkward. Tyler tried to act like nothing happened, stomping around the kitchen while pretending not to look at me. Madison sulked by the coffee maker, making passive-aggressive sighs loud enough to echo. My mom gave me that disappointed mother look, the one that used to make me feel guilty when I was a kid, but guilt was gone now. I was done shrinking for people who never thanked me for the space I made for them. That day, I decided to treat myself. I went on the rental website and browsed local activities, snorkeling, jet ski rentals, parasailing. Then I saw something perfect. A dolphin cruise, limited capacity, single registration per booking account. I clicked reserve without hesitation. The next morning, I got up early, grabbed my sun hat, and left before anyone else was awake. I spent 3 hours on a boat surrounded by sparkling water and dolphins leaping in the distance while sipping complimentary mimosas. It was everything I'd imagined this trip would be. When I got back, the mood in the house was heavy. My mom asked why I hadn't told them about the cruise. Tyler said it was inconsiderate. Madison crossed her arms and said she couldn't believe I didn't include the family. I told them calmly that the cruise only allowed registration under the payment account, and since no one had paid me back, it seemed only fair that I enjoy the perks. Tyler's face turned an interesting shade of red, and he muttered something about me being petty. I smiled and said, "I'm just matching your energy, bro." He looked like he had swallowed a lemon whole. For the rest of the trip, the balance shifted completely. I stopped babysitting. When Madison asked if I could just keep an eye on the kids while they nap, I said I had plans and walked out with my beach bag. When Tyler asked if I could help him figure out the Wi-Fi, I said it was acting up and that he should contact the property manager. I started doing what I wanted. Long walks on the beach, dinners alone, sitting by the pool with my headphones in while they struggled to entertain their own children. I could feel their irritation growing every day, but for once I didn't care. It wasn't revenge exactly, it was balance. The universe must have agreed because near the end of the week, I got a call from the rental company. They wanted to confirm an extra cleaning charge since, as the rep delicately put it, the children appear to have drawn on the bedroom walls with markers. I blinked, picturing Lily's enthusiastic artwork. Swirls and stick figures I'd seen earlier but chosen to ignore because I was too tired to deal with it. The rep said the damage fee would be billed to the account holder, which technically was me. For a second, I considered paying it just to be done. But then I remembered something important. When Tyler had gone grocery shopping earlier in the trip, he'd used his card through the same booking app to link the expenses. I still had his card information stored under the shared family payment section. So, I told the representative that the charge should go directly to the secondary payment method listed on the account, Tyler's card. The rep confirmed the name, and I said, yes, that's the one. A few hours later, while sitting by the pool, I saw Tyler pacing near the sliding glass doors, his phone pressed to his ear. His tone was sharp, frustrated. I didn't need to hear the words to know what was happening. I just leaned back in my chair, took a sip of cold lemonade, and watched the sunlight glitter on the water. They charged him $1,250, sweet justice. When the trip finally ended, the atmosphere in the car was as thick as the Florida humidity. Tyler and Madison refused to ride back with me and my mom. They claimed their flight time was different, but it was obvious they didn't want to spend another second near me. Madison made one last attempt to have the final word as she loaded her designer tote into the rental car. She tossed over her shoulder that I was being childish. I looked at her and said, "You're right. I should have hired myself and sent you an invoice." She blinked, speechless, then climbed into the car, slamming the door. Watching their taillights disappear down the road felt like watching a weight lift off my chest. The ride home with my mom was quiet at first. She tried to fill the silence with small talk, pointing out palm trees and gas stations, but it was obvious she wanted to bring up what had happened. Eventually, she did. She said that Tyler was really hurt and that I should apologize just to keep the peace. I laughed out loud, a short, bitter sound that startled her. I told her that Tyler had used me as free childcare after I funded the vacation and that if I had babysat for him back home, he would owe me $20 an hour. By my math, that meant he owed me roughly $600. My mom sighed and said I shouldn't put a price on family. I told her that family shouldn't treat me like an employee. She didn't have an answer for that. A few days later, I got a notification on Facebook. Madison had posted one of those long, passive-aggressive rants written in vague terms, but painfully obvious in their target. It started with, "Some people just love ruining family vacations," and went on about how selfish attitudes destroy happy memories. It was full of those humble brag lines about being too kind for your own good. I didn't respond, but I didn't have to. The comments section turned against her almost instantly. One of her own friends wrote, "Didn't Emily pay for that trip, though?" Someone else commented, "I'd be mad too if I paid for everything and got stuck babysitting." Madison tried replying to a few comments, but the tone quickly shifted. Within an hour, the post was gone, deleted. That should have been the end of it. But Tyler tried to salvage his pride. He texted me later that night, saying he just wanted to clear things up. He told me I didn't have to embarrass them like that in front of everyone, referring to the dinner moment when I reminded the table who paid for the villa. I stared at the message for a while before responding. I told him he didn't have to use me as a wallet. There was no reply after that. The silence was beautiful. Months passed, and for the first time in years, I actually enjoyed the quiet. No sudden phone calls asking for favors, no guilt-tripping texts about being a good sister. I focused on myself, worked hard, and took a few small trips, solo ones, where no one expected me to pay for or organize anything but my own peace of mind. Then, 6 months after the Florida incident, I got another message from Tyler. This time, it was almost funny. He and Madison wanted to attend a wedding in Nashville and asked if I could watch their kids for the weekend. They said they'd pay me $100. I couldn't stop laughing. After all the drama, after everything they had said about me being cold and selfish, they still had the audacity to ask for free or cheap labor. I replied that my rate was $40 an hour and I charged double for hypocrites. The message was left unread. Later that week, my mom called again. She said Tyler had complained that I had turned cold and that the family felt distant now. I told her that I wasn't cold. I was used. There's a difference. She was quiet for a long time before admitting she understood, even if she didn't like how things had unfolded. But that was the truth. For years, I'd been their reliable backup plan. When I stopped playing that role, it looked like cruelty to people who had confused my kindness with obligation. Now, I spend my vacations with people who actually value me. My friends and I plan trips where everyone splits the bills, shares the cooking, and thanks each other for the effort. It's peaceful, fair, and uncomplicated. There's no hidden resentment or emotional debt hanging over the table at dinner, just laughter and relaxation, the things I had once wanted from my own family. Tyler still brings up the Florida incident whenever he wants sympathy. According to him, I overreacted and ruined what was supposed to be a happy family trip. But every time he tells the story, he conveniently leaves out the parts that matter. Like how I paid for most of it, how they never reimbursed me, or how I spent half the trip cleaning up after his kids while he sipped cocktails on the beach. I don't bother correcting him anymore. People who know me already know the truth. And the ones who believe him wouldn't listen anyway. The last time I saw them was at Thanksgiving. The food was good, the tension was better. Tyler tried to play it cool, acting like we were fine, but his eyes kept flicking to me as if he was waiting for me to apologize again. Toward the end of the night, he finally asked if I still thought I was right. I smiled, leaned back in my chair, and said that I didn't think I was right. I knew I was right. Then I added that I had the receipts to prove it. He went quiet. Madison muttered something about boundaries, and I raised my glass to her and said, "Exactly. Boundaries are expensive, but worth every penny." For a moment, the whole table froze. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw my mom's mouth twitch. She was trying not to laugh, but she failed. A quiet snort escaped before she covered it with a napkin. It wasn't approval exactly, but it was acknowledgement, the kind I'd been waiting for my whole life. I left that dinner with my head high, knowing I had finally broken free from a cycle I didn't deserve. They could tell whatever version of the story they wanted, but the truth was mine. And it was simple. I stopped letting people use me and started treating myself like someone worth protecting. If you've ever been the responsible one, the helper, or the peacekeeper in your family, remember this. There's nothing wrong with drawing the line. Boundaries don't make you cruel, they make you free. Thanks for reading my story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.